Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be doing the BookTube Newbie Tag. Since I am so quite new to BookTube, I thought it would be fun and a good way for y'all to get to know more about me. Plus, I personally love watching tag videos and learning more about my favorite booktubers, so hopefully this will be interesting for y'all. There are 11 questions in this tag, and I did already kind of go through them and write myself some notes for this video, so let's get started. The first question is, why did you start this channel? And it's kind of a funny story because I actually have another YouTube channel that's dedicated to planning and journaling, that type of stuff. But over the course of making those videos, I talk about books a lot because those videos tend to be very long, like 45 minutes to an hour. So I have a lot of space to fill up and I talk about pretty much anything. But because I read so much, I talk a lot about books. And at one point I had considered doing book content on that channel. I tried it out for a while and it didn't really work. The videos weren't getting as many views as my normal videos, so I stopped doing that. But then I had people commenting and saying, where'd your book content go? Can you bring the book content back? Or you should make a BookTube channel. So I thought about it for a while. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it, but I finally just jumped in and did it, and I'm so glad I did. So that's really the main reason, is that my other subscribers on my other channel influenced me to make this channel solely dedicated to books. But other than that, I wanted to have a place to talk books because I only have a couple of bookish people in my life, so I don't have that many chances to discuss books and, fangirl and freak out in my real life. But here on BookTube, I can do that all the time, which is great. And lastly, I am a self-published author, so I wanted another space where I could promote my works, and YouTube works great for that. The second question is, what are some fun and unique things you can bring to BookTube? And I think the first thing I bring is just a different variety of books, because I would say 95% of the books I read are thrifted. I don't ever really buy new books unless it's a very special occasion or it's a series that I'm really dedicated to. And as I'm sure you're aware, when you go to a thrift store or a secondhand bookshop or whatever, the variety of books is very hit or miss. You never know what you're going to find. And because of that, I found that I've picked up over the years a ton of books that I never hear anyone talk about, but that I personally love, and I'm so glad I stumbled across. So I do plan on this channel to talk about some books that are less hyped, less popular, maybe not very new or modern, but still really good and definitely worth checking out. And another thing I think I can bring to YouTube is my self-publishing experience, because I know a lot of readers also like to write, and some of y'all might already have something written that you want to publish. And the traditional publishing process is very difficult and time-consuming. I did try to go that route myself for my books. I actually tried to go that way with 2 of my books, but neither of them worked out, and they've all been self-published now. And overall, it's been a really fun experience for me, but there are definitely some hiccups along the way and just little things that I wish I had known before I started, or I wish I had had someone to advise me along the way. So I hope I can be there to kind of be a support for anyone who might be interested in self-publishing. Number 3, what are you most excited about for this channel? Well, I'm really excited to hype my favorite books because, like I said, a lot of the books that I love, I have never heard a single soul talk about. And it's really, I feel disappointed because these books are so great and they deserve attention, but they just don't get it. So I'm really excited to do some videos about lesser known books. I'm also looking forward to making more bookish friends. It's been so fun already interacting with some of the people that I've been watching over the years. And I also think this will be a great creative outlet for me. I'm always looking for more creative outlets because my job is creative. I actually design stationery and sell it for a living. So I'm creative a lot at work, and that kind of drains my brain and that creativity, although I do enjoy it, but since I'm doing it for work, it can be very draining and taxing. So I love having other different creative hobbies outside of drawing that I can do in my spare time. Number 4, why do you love reading? Okay, buckle up y'all, because this is going to be a long answer. I think the main reason that I love reading is because in my life, I unfortunately have not been surrounded by the best role models and the most inspiring people, but I've been able to find those role models and those inspiring people and motivating people in books, because there are so many amazing stories out there that just really blow you away and wow you and show you the beauty and the triumph of the human spirit, which is something I really lacked when I was younger. I didn't see that in my daily life, but reading really put that into perspective for me and showed me the different types of people out there and what you can accomplish if you really set your entire heart and soul on something, which is just, it's giving me chills thinking about it because I've read these books. I mean, behind me you see Lord of the Rings. And I know Lord of the Rings is almost like cliche because everyone seems to talk about it and love it, but the books are so beautiful, and the things that people go through, the sacrifices they make to help others, it's just beyond inspiring and so beautiful. So I think that's one of the main reasons that I love reading, is you get to meet these characters. Okay, they aren't really people, but you get to see these characters doing these awe-inspiring things, and it's just amazing. It's so beautiful. I also just find reading really magical and kind of engrossing. As someone who has anxiety and sometimes I struggle to turn off my brain, having a good story to dive into and just lose myself in is so great, especially at the end of a busy day or whatever. I just can't emphasize enough how great it is to open up a book and just find myself diving in. It's like I'm stepping into a different world, especially if it's a series or something where you can look forward to it and it can really help calm your anxiety and pull you back from that, take a step back and have you have something to look forward to at night. Yeah, I love that. I also love to learn, and I do try to read books that expand my mind and maybe cover topics or things that I'm not super familiar with, because now that I'm no longer in school, I'm out of college and everything, I don't have to do research papers or read textbooks, but I still want to learn. I still want to exercise my brain, so reading helps to do that as well. And probably the final reason I'm going to give for this little answer right here, because I don't want this answer to be like 20 minutes long, is that I'm a big history buff. I have a degree in history and it's always fascinated me, and I do read a lot of historical fiction and classics, so I think it's super fun to read books from over 100 years ago, 200 years ago, whatever, where the culture is totally different, and to read about what it was like back then. It's fascinating. It's very charming and different, and I often make little notes in my books to tell my friends later, like, hey, did you know back in the day they did this, this, and this? I don't know if anyone's as interested as I am in that, but I think it's fun. Question number 5 is, what book or series got you into reading? And this question is kind of hard for me to answer because I actually don't remember a time before I loved to read. I've loved to read my whole life, so I can't really pinpoint like the Divergent series or Harry Potter or anything like that for getting me into reading. But the first book series that I remember loving was the Little House series. I have the first book right here. I loved these books so much as a kid. My great-grandma had a copy of these books that I used to read at her house all the time because she was a big reader as well. I just devoured this series. I read the whole thing multiple times as a kid. I can't even tell you how many times I've read this, and I still reread these books every single year around Christmas time because they're so cute and wholesome, and they just make me feel warm and fuzzy inside. The Little House books and Laura Ingalls in general has really shaped my life, I would say. She's actually one of my biggest role models from these books if you ever read them. She is just a really great character slash person because these books are semi-autobiographical. Wow, big word. So you see a lot of character development and Laura having to face different things in her life, and when I was reading it as a kid, it was just very inspiring and motivating to me. So even though I've loved to read for as long as I can remember, I did take a big break from reading during my last year of high school and my first year of college because my workload was just insane, and I had to read all the time for my high school classes to take exams and stuff like that. And then in college, my first year of college was not a great experience for me. I was actually depressed. When I'm looking back on it, I realized I was depressed, but at the time I didn't realize what was wrong with me, and I had a ton of problems with my major, and I ended up changing my major, and it was a whole fiasco. But basically, I had too much work, and I just did not have the inner strength and motivation to read, so I took a big break from reading during that time. But then, in my sophomore year of college when I was 19, I picked up Jane Eyre. And I cannot remember why I picked this book up. I seriously have no idea what led me to pick up this book, and it was this actual copy right here, which is really special. But for some reason, when I was 19, I picked this up and read it, and I loved it, okay? This became my favorite book, like, instantly, as soon as I finished it. And that got me back into reading. This one little book reminded me how much I love getting lost in a story and finding role models. Speaking of role models, Jane Eyre is like such a strong character. I love her. She goes through so much, but she stays strong, and she remains a positive influence on people. She doesn't let the world corrupt her. It's so beautiful. I love this book so much. And then after I finished this book, of course I wanted more, but this is not a series or anything, so I just started diving into the other classic novels, and that's how I got started reading classics, which is what I'm pretty much known for now. I had read classics before in school, but I never liked them. I don't think anyone really likes the books that were made to read in school, which is funny because several of the books that I read in school I didn't like at the time, but now I love. For example, in 9th grade, we had Great Expectations by Charles Dickens on our summer reading list, which I don't know why they want 14-year-olds reading Charles Dickens, because 14-year-olds cannot appreciate anything. I mean, have you met a 14-year-old? But yeah, we read that and lots of other stuff in school, and I didn't like it, but then as an adult or like an older teenager, I picked up this and a bunch of other classics and just fell in love. I still love classics to this day. I think they're so beautiful, and I do have a goal to eventually read every classic in the world. So question 6 is, what questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? This was an interesting question. I had to think for a while about my answer, but I think I would first ask, if you could only recommend one book to a person, what would it be aside from the Bible? Okay, we're not including the Bible in this because I know that would probably be everyone's answer. But if you could recommend one book to someone to read for the rest of your life, it has to be the same book. And also, if you could only reread one book for the rest of your life, again, excluding the Bible, what book would it be? And I honestly don't know how I would answer those questions. I think they're really tough questions for someone who loves books, but yeah, I would be super interested to know everyone's answer. So if y'all want to drop your answer in the comments, I would love to read it. Number 7, what challenges do you think starting a BookTube channel will be the hardest to overcome? Honestly, for me, my biggest issue is self-confidence. Unfortunately, I'm not a very confident person, and honestly, it's embarrassing how many times I refilm things or scrap things because I don't like the way I look or the way I sound, or I think I moved my hand in like a weird way and it looks strange. So sometimes I just need to get out of my own head and not worry about that, because the way I scrap stuff and refilm stuff for these tiny minuscule reasons is honestly dumb. And I know it's dumb, but yeah, I'm just working through it. Believe it or not, my self-confidence has actually grown a lot in the last couple years, but growing from nothing to like this much is not that much. And then the other challenge I think I'll have to overcome is just time, because I do own my own small business that takes up a lot of my time, and I also refuse to give up my sleep for any reason. I'm like very into health and fitness, and I think getting 8 hours of sleep is super important. I can personally tell a huge difference in myself if I don't get enough sleep, and every weekday I get up at 5:30 in the morning. So I don't have a lot of wiggle room at the end of the day for reading, and I refuse to push into my sleep time to read. So I think, or film videos, I'm not gonna push into it for either reason. So I think just working, reading, and then being able to film about the books I read into my schedule is going to take some getting used to. Question number 8, I already kind of answered. It's, when did you start reading? Again, I don't remember a time before I knew how to read and loved to read, although my mom has said before that when I was little, I would just carry a book around with me and pretend I knew how to read it, or I would beg the nearest adult to read the book to me. So yeah. Number 12, where do you read? I read only at home. I don't take my books out of the house because I'm slightly paranoid they'll get damaged or lost, but I mainly read in 3 places. The first one is this pink reading chair right here. It's really soft and comfy and plush. I love it. I always sit there to read if I'm reading in my room. If I'm not reading in my room, I'm reading on the couch in the living room or out on the balcony if the weather is nice. Number 10, what kind of books do you like to read? I like a wide variety of books, I think. I really enjoy reading nonfiction about topics that interest me. I know I've talked a lot about this on the channel before, but I go through different little phases of historical topics that I'm mildly obsessed with, and I read all the books on those topics that I can get my hands on. I also like to read historical fiction because I do love history, and I love to read Christian books in general, so any type of Christian nonfiction, Christian historical fiction, Christian romance. Although I will say, for romance books for me, there has to be something else in the plot besides romance, or the romance has to be like mind-blowingly good, because I'm not the biggest romance fan. I don't dislike it, but it's definitely not like my top genre. I love classics, as I said earlier. I really enjoy cozy mysteries, and lately I've been reading a lot of middle grade books. I'm not sure what kickstarted that, but I'm loving the middle grade books lately. I feel like they're really healing my inner child. The last question, question number 11, is what does your book collection look like? I have 2 bookshelves in my house that are solely designated to my books. One you see behind me, obviously, and then one is off camera over there. So I'm going to take the camera and give you a close-up view of each one and explain what's on there. Okay, y'all, so here is my first bookshelf, a very standard white 3-tier bookshelf. And I'll just start up here at the top. I have a little jar with bookmarks, one of the books I read recently that I really liked, and then some more little decor items, including this very tiny mushroom guy. This shelf is mostly my TBR shelf, so the first 2 shelves here are all books I either have never read in my life or I've read them before, but I really, really want/need to reread them. So that's what we've got going on the top shelf right there, and most of these books I have hauled and talked about on my channel already. Down here we have more books. These are books that I'm not planning to get to for the next couple months, so they're a little lower on the bookshelf. And then I have some little decor items over here and my little Polaroid camera. And on the bottom we have very recent reads that I just haven't moved to my other bookshelf yet. And my little space shuttle salt and pepper shakers right there. Here is my other shelf. I honestly don't really care for the shape of the shelf. I bought it online and I just had a different vision for how it would look in my room. But yeah, it's here now and we're making it work. Behind my shelf, I have this tapestry with some lyrics from Be Thou My Vision on it. And on top, I honestly just have like random stuff that I don't really have a place for. I just have a printer. This is a box full of ephemera and journaling supplies. I have dried flowers, this little boba cup that is really cute, so I rinsed it and kept it after I got it. And then my glasses case. So it's probably pretty obvious why this shelf is not the background of my videos, because this shelf is super not aesthetic. This is all my books that I talked about having thrifted. Most of them are ugly. Many of them are well loved. I mean, look at this copy of Idiot by Dostoevsky. It's kind of a disaster. Like, I really should probably get another copy, but this was the original version of the book that I read, and I am like really attached to it, so I keep it. I have read probably 95% of the books on this shelf. I haven't read every single one, but I've read most of them, which is really good. Starting up here in the top left, this is not really organized in a particular way other than by size. So right here I have a bunch of the Penguin Classic editions of books. I also have two Modern Library College editions. This is actually my favorite type of classic book to read. I just really like the way these books feel in your hand, and they also lay flat when you're reading, which is super nice. Below that I have a bunch of random stuff, some C.S. Lewis, some Barnes & Noble editions. Yeah, totally random. And then this shelf has some more historical type books and smaller books. Right here I have my Joanne Fluke, Hannah Swenson series cozy mystery books, my copy of Jane Eyre and Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky. Those are two of, if not my favorite books, definitely in the top 5 of my favorite books, so I like to keep them together so they can keep each other company. Up here I have kind of weirdly shaped books that are like really large or they're hardcover and don't really fit anywhere else. They're all up here. Next door we have another random collection of super odd books that I've accumulated over the years. Below that I have my Laura Ingalls series. Like I said, these books are wrecked. I mean, they seriously need to be changed out. Some of them I have had to buy new editions of because they literally fell apart on me, but I am keeping the old ones for as long as I can. And at the bottom, more random books. I have my Incorrigible Children of Ashton Place series and then some little Bantam classics. And that is my book collection. Alright y'all, that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed learning some more about me and my bookish habits. Thank you so much for watching and supporting my channel. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye! Yeah, I had a hair on my tongue. I love classics, as I said earlier.